Okay, being 6:30, I will call the facilities meeting to order. First business is roll call. All members are present with other guests here also. Next item is the approval of the minutes from the February 23rd meeting. You were all mailed copies of the minutes. What are your wishes for the minutes?
I'll second.
The motion's been made and seconded for approval of the minutes as presented. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. For minutes. Okay, public comment? There was no public comment? My understanding, right, Pat? None of you. Okay. Next one is items placed at the request of the chair. I had put the sustainability report on there that Katie had talked about last time, but there's nothing to report there. Things are going along fine, and so there's nothing to discuss. And even though I do have it under the action item down here, there will be no action being needed to be taken. So that moves us down to F, staff and recreation reports, fair and fair board. Yep.
I did send the report out, and as I mentioned in the report, that I was working on getting a quote to replace the dairy wheat barn for gas fans, as we discussed last time. I did get that information. It wasn't available until after the meeting information went out, so I did send that out in a separate email, so I hope you all have a chance to look at that. They are really busy right now preparing lots of quotes because there's ARPA money sitting up there that a lot of facilities sounds like they will be trying to put in some of those fans. They're very nice fans. They're quiet, pick up a lot less dust, like I mentioned, energy efficient, and you won't have to have those noisy old-fashioned barn fans that are as old as the building is. So I guess my main part is that if there's any consideration that we can to any of the items that I asked for last month for funding from ARPA funds or some funding for and including the gas fans. I really appreciate it, and the fair board would really appreciate it. Fairgrounds. Questions about the request that we presented last month, and then
So how many of the power foil D, the one that says that fan will cover about a 70 by 70 open space, that's what you would prefer that one over the other?
yes, because of the amount of dust, or because they're more protected than here for dust. He is looking at possibly putting in 3 of those 16-foot fans.
3 is okay.
That would, he said, looking at the building, I sent him pictures of the inside of the building. I had rough dimensions. The only dimension I didn't have was the height of the ceiling, so we kind of based it off an estimate of ceiling height, but we thought 3 of those would be sufficient.
Really?
They're huge fans, and they move a lot of air. I mean, I was at a show at one of the other fairs watching the dairy show, and there was actually a lady behind the car to get a coat because she was chilly. She was sitting right underneath one of them. Surprising how much air they do actually move.
Okay.
I think they do a real nice asset to that building, real nice asset to the power foil D is $10,009 per fan, and the installation kit is that would depend on what all he was glad the building is built like it is because it's built heavy enough to work those things.
I didn't see that letter yet, but 10,000 is that installed? Or
No, that's just the
So
cost of the
then-
thing,
So you're talking maybe 40,000 or something?
possibly, yeah. There were some links there that we want to these are commercial or industrial type fans. Because so they don't- I don't know, Scott, had any information he wanted, if you looked at any of those, any of that fans or had any thoughts about that? Obviously, that's what my favorite is, a volunteer, so I said if anything else was needed, Scott.
You gotta push that one, the left button first, then the right, remember? What it is.
You can only have 2 mics on at a time,
No,
or 3,
you should be able to.
because I see that.
Turn mine on.
Right now.
Chuck,
Right.
Twins, present twins.
Oh, works. I did look at those down, but not to great down.
Well, I think they work nice too, but my question is, could that be considered a capital improvement, or is that maintenance?
Just So is this something that was used for the other? Would this be used for the rest of the year by hockey? Is that something we should see they'll pay for? Since they use the building a couple months out of the year. Probably not. I don't even know that they would have. use for the storage.
So this isn't the main center, this is the
Good thought.
cattle box.
But it's still theirs for that month out of the year.
They do occasionally rent it out for shows. The pony bowl is in the fall. I post the history posting show before. They had a dog up there. I know they were negotiating to bring in some kind of a goat or a llama type show. So that they do use it.
I guess I just feel that they're gonna get the use out of it far more than us. They should contribute. They should use it.
Well, we could ask. We could ask them if they have any interest in helping us.
And if you don't ask, they can't say no.
That's true. That is true.
And I guess if they say no, then maybe we don't let them use it in the rest of the year. It'd be rented or something.
Well, yeah, that's not that crazy of a thing, you know. I'm sure we could put the way to lock out power source. We'll ask them first and we'll see what happens. Okay, Deb, anything else you want to report on?
I guess I don't have anything other than what was written in my report, voting in the District 2 meeting. 12. And we're working on their entry transfer information to for to start the entry process, so we can use it more this year for lead animal sale information as far as even tracking reports, which will be new for us, and then judges and the sponsors.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? If not, thank you. Okay, facilities and parks division, operations projects, etc. Okay.
Well, I have update on our applications for facility worker
applications through last Wednesday night. And we had 14 applicants. HR screened through them, sent over 10 applicants to me. So I have those I'm going through. And I'll be sending up some interviews. It's only up there for a facility worker. Yesterday, the recruitment started for our seasonal workers for mowing the parks. Don't know what type of applicants we're going to get or how many, since that seasonal position is still at $12 an hour. So we'll see what we get. There. Biggest goals under operations tools of you guys, how many of you saw, I sent out a report from the Menominee shooting range from the club, their 2021 report on what they've done. Sent it out so you guys could look at your leisure and see what they've done. They're still doing just as much stuff out at the shooting range as they always have, with cutting stuff, maintaining, working on things. They're really go out there and get nice. It's a really nice shooting range. Really appreciate those guys. So wanted to get that report out to you guys. So if you have any questions, get a hold of me on that. We can always talk to them or have like that. Explain what they do. Going on from there, a few minor projects going on, nothing real major right at the moment, but upcoming projects. Talked with the staff, the managers in environmental services up on second floor here. They're looking at creating a reception area to have reception glass on each side and counters on each side, and then have a secure door going into their suite. Because right now, like if Tom Carlson is in his office, back in the suite, he's in his office and Janet's out for lunch. Somebody can walk right in and go right to Tom's office, knock on the door and get his attention, but they can walk right in. So they're looking at a way to do that. And so I went up and met with them, and I think my guys can do this very cheap for price wise materials. We do have a door and side light that can go in there that's left over from remodeling this building, so there wouldn't be any cost in that. We do have some reception glass and frames that's left over from the sheriff's department before the bulletproof glass project. So I think I can incorporate that stuff into this project. So we would have our steel studs and our drywall, and then finishing the drywall. We won't have a lot into creating this. So in-house, we should do a pretty effective job of keeping price down and getting what they want in the department. So looking at that project. Other than that, it's just been some minor projects of putting up some LED lights over in the highway shop, which really added a lot down there. The center aisle that goes through the shop area, when they park their trucks in that center aisle, working on it, like changing cloud lights or anything like that. It was really dark on the one side, so we added more lights on the sidewall facing toward the trucks. So it really lit it up. Dustin was really good with that. Moving on from there to fleet. We have 3 plow trucks being delivered tomorrow. They're coming right from Monroe Truck Equipment. They came into the dealer sent them out to Monroe. They're coming, being delivered tomorrow with the plows on them. And so those will get changed out with our 3 2018 Rams that have the plows on. So they'll bring the trucks and take the other ones back right away. And Enterprise will accept them then, and then they'll put them up for sale and get them sold. Hopefully we can turn around on those like we do now and get some more equity credit with Enterprise. So that'll take care of them. Let you guys know we have to put it there and decide what to do with that money. Go forward from there. The other two trucks that we have coming, one is at the dealer, and that one is prepped and ready to go tomorrow when we get the plow put on. The fifth truck is, its status is shipped. GM is trying to expedite that to get that to the dealer faster. They'll be coming eventually. Aside from that, that's what we're on the fleet. Malibus are in service, they're working good. I checked the mileage on them the other day to see what we have have been put on them, and they're probably in that 700 to 800 mile range right now. So they have on them. So they're getting used, but they're not getting used a lot. Like prior to COVID, when there was more people coming and going. Let's see. For financials, I want to report that in the past, the facilities department, when we were in public works, all of our billing was done by Joy that's in the finance. She would create the bills for other departments out of the CHEMS program. And since we split from highway out of public works, we took over our billing. In the process of taking over our billing. Mercedes will be working on doing the billing. Her and I have been working with Sarah Stabno, setting out Excel spreadsheet to enter all the data into there. Mainly facilities bills, the neighbors, bills highway, and bills transit, or any of the stuff that we do. Obviously with the neighbors, it's the two staff that I have over there for facilities, and then the two contracted custodians will bill that out to the neighbors. So that gets to be the bigger bill of the month. Highway, it's if we do any projects for them, and then also if we do lawn mowing for them in the summertime, and bill that out. Transit, it's going to be summer lawn mowing and winter maintenance. So the spreadsheet is going to be mainly for those three departments to get billed from facilities. Sarah Stabenow is doing a great job doing this spreadsheet, and then she's going to be able to turn it into a pivot table so that we can extract the data out of there at the end of the year when we need it. It's going to be really nice and very easy for Mercedes to enter in the number of hours, and this will create an invoice. It'll be nice to take that over something right there. One of the problems we had in the past was our invoice for the neighbors was probably almost 2 months behind. So that kind of made it harder for the neighbors to know exactly where they were, because those invoices were still sitting out there, but we had to charge them for it. So that'll help keep the neighbors better on their financials. So I'm looking at that as a good thing. I'm thinking we have February and March that we haven't billed for yet. And I'm thinking that probably next week Mercedes will be able to get February's all ready to go. And then as soon as the end of March hits, she should be able to do March invoices. That'll get our financials caught up for money that's owed to the facilities department. I'm really excited about that. It's really looking good. And Mercedes is doing a great job for us. So she's picking up on that stuff. Let's see, energy wise, I just wanted to report about the power to the old boiler room. Let you guys know about that. Excel is going to take that out of there. Yeah, it only saves $20 a month, but we have no reason for the power there anymore. We're going through the process of getting ready to do the abatement of the boiler room this year in preparation of demolition. We don't need the power, so I talked to Excel. They're going to pull the meter. They're going to pull two of the transformers off the pole behind the boiler room, take down the overhead lines going to the boiler room, so there won't be any power going in there anymore. It'll be safe that once they do the abatement in there, then we can get whatever we can scrap out of there and get it from. With that, there's another meter that we're paying for that I guess my thoughts are is we should meter that, it's a 3-phase meter that's in the middle of the racetrack that has not been used since the early 2000s. Debbie, you could probably shed light on what that was put in for. It was a music act that came and they required this 3-phase power for them. It was put in and it's never been used since. So XL contacted me and they said, you know, power hasn't been used from this for quite some time. And it's a charge of $21 a month. But it's something, look at it this way, if we haven't used it in pushing 20 years now, maybe it's the point where we should cut it off and be done with it. If, you know, if we ever go back to using it, if it's more than a year since the meter was pulled, then it's gonna have to be inspected before they'll put the meter back on. And there'll be a charge. But if we take it out and decide to hook it back up, get the meter back in there, if it's less than a year, then there's gonna be inspection. But there'll be a charge, of course. So.
Molly had.
I thought it was somebody else.
Yeah, there was, Marshall Tucker, right?
Oh, that's what.
Marshall Tucker, yeah. We used it another year for one of the sporting events.
Okay.
That's,
I think I'm seeing 3 mics active,
I just
and I
thought.
think that's a limit now. That's going
No,
up.
all right. So, yeah, we had the deposits, and then there was one other thing that we used it for. I think it was like one of the motocross or something. It's kind of special.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, thing, but we haven't had them back. It's just. Rich over. We do put there's a feed stand that goes up there. That one is a different feeder, right? That trailer.
So there's
And the
two,
beer trailer,
there's 2 meters.
Meters there, the
Yep.
one 3-phase and then the other. one.
Yep.
Just want to make sure we don't.
Yep,
put
no,
power together.
the 3-phase XL with that and there has been power used off that. Yeah, since early 2000s. Yep.
Budget wise, I don't, we can't compete with jam. and all those other ones.
Yep. Over the years. It's been a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah. So that's my thoughts. I think we should go ahead with pull the meter and done with it. It doesn't add up to a lot in a year, but now the years multiply. It's added up to a lot over the years.
Yeah, and if we don't have any future plans to use it.
Yeah.
Might as well.
And then still haven't got a time set up with Eagle Point to get the interval data over to neighbors. Dave Plume and see where he's at on that and get something scheduled. Hopefully, before the next meeting, we can get in here, get it hooked up, get the readings that it needs, and then we can crunch the numbers and get some reports back to us. That is all I have.
Thank you, Scott. Good report. I just want to let you know, I did read through the Menominee shooting range information. Looked at the pictures out there, since they've done some very nice improvements out there, so. So if it's okay with everybody else in the room, I'd like to, next time we talk to them, send our thanks for the maintenance that they've done on that range. I think it looks really sharp. The expansion of the shooting range, the sight lines in the 200, 300 yard range is excellent. And putting pavement up to the benches there so that disabled shooters can get out there and practice. And the work that they've done on the culverts. And I know this year they're actually going to be working on the overhead.
Yep.
Because things are backed up. So
Yeah.
I think things are looking really good in the addition of some pistol lanes up there. So I think they're doing really good. So send our thanks to the shooting range.
Yeah,
A couple of things. When we were talking about the shooting range, I noticed that they had $3,090 volunteer. It's amazing. A lot of work went in out there. Volunteer, you know. So yeah, they need a big thanks. We wouldn't have what we have
Right.
in Dunn County without this organization. Going back to your report, Scott, recruitment for seasonal workers for mowing the parks.
Yep.
At one time, for many years, we felt it was cheaper to go with contracted labor for that. And I noticed that in 23, we're buying some mowers for $30,000, and in 25, we've got $80,000 worth of mowers to purchase. And I would like to see the committee going forward sometime this year, at least look at that again, what it would compare to contracting out for all our money. Because right now, we could contract out for all our money of all the lots. I mean, we could do that. And we'd be giving a business in Dunn County some work. And I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there that I think you add up mowers, you add up a truck and trailer, you add up people. I think we should look at that. Yeah. Just like
Yeah.
3 cents worth for going forward.
The mowers that are on capital equipment for the future, those are the mowers that we mow the grounds here. Those aren't the parks. We do have zero turn mowers that are parks. And looking at what we pay seasonal, or what we paid seasonal in the past, has been $14,000-15,000. And we bought those mowers. One was purchased in 2020. They're 1 or 2 years old this year. So we do have the mowers. Those aren't going to be replaced. But I will definitely look into that.
I'd encourage you to look into it for mowing all the lots. Because then you'd only have to keep like one mower or maybe 2 for brush and stuff. And that piece of equipment would last so many more years.
Sure.
I'm just throwing that.
Sure. So it's definitely a good idea. I can definitely look into it.
yeah,
I guess I would encourage you to look into it. May not be quite as quick to jump on the side of subcontracting everything out, but if the numbers add up right, that's the most cost effective. Research both options and see what the value of the mowers are depreciated. Because if we get 20 years out of that mower, maybe it's not so bad. If we only get 5 years out of that mower, then maybe there is some.
Sure. Definitely true.
okay, any other comments or discussion on that? Okay, if not, we'll go on to the next topic here, Corporation Council Staff Report, says none. But do you have any?
I was asked to come here and talk about camping. And possibly raise.
Okay. Okay, and then we'll just move on to the next one. D, Environmental Services Department, Accessibility, Wisconsin Track, Wheelchair Update. So, nothing?
Oh, we have something on that.
Oh,
So I started looking into the application process for Dunn County and for the Sunrise Menominee Sunrise Rotary to become host for the wheelchair, like has been planned for, and it works for a couple of years now here. AEW got back to me, and they're kind of taking a different approach or different look at how their business is going. They have wheelchairs placed, one in Rice Lake and one in Barron currently. And so what they recommended or proposed us to do is that, I guess they asked if we had any events coming up that that wheelchair would be used for. Now, I couldn't think of any events that it would be used for. Talking with the Rotary Club, the only event that they could think of is possibly somebody would use it for the county fair. They mentioned about, I guess that's the only one they mentioned about. So what AEW was suggesting is that if we had an event or if we could do it, work it out, they would want us to reserve the chair from Rice Lake or Barron. And then somebody would have to go pick it up, bring it down here, use it, stuff like that. That way, they would be able to see if there was a need in Menominee around this area for the chair. And if there was a big need for it, if we were reserving it and using it, say more than what Rice Lake or Barron was, then they would look at getting us a chair. And we would have one here that we hold. So I went back to Menominee Sunrise Rotary, talked to them about it, give them the update on it. And they kind of, they were gonna talk it over, but they're kind of at the point of where they're thinking they're gonna pull the plug on it at this point. So what AEW was finding is they were putting chairs out there, figuring, you know, we'll put the chairs out there, they'll be used, and you know, it's all gonna work. Well, with their grants, they started having problems with the numbers not showing that they're getting used enough. And so then they were having problems with that, so they had to readjust their outlook on the business. And so now they're trying to adjust that, figure out the best places for the chairs. So I think that whole project is put on hold. I'll report back as I hear back from the Rotary Club. So that's the update for that.
What about the 4th of July celebration? That's in town.
That could be another event that could be. And I'll mention that to you.
Because that's at Wakanda Park. And
Yep.
there's a lot of places that normal wheelchairs can't get to in Wakanda Park.
Some probably breakfast, farm breakfast.
It's sad, because I think that would have been a really nice, just for people to be able to get out on the trail or out in the woods and,
Yeah.
and the sad figure that,
Yeah, I think a situation like the events like you're talking about, the 4th of July or the dairy breakfast. I think that situation, in order to make that happen, the Rotary Club or Dunn County, we would have to reserve that chair for that day. And it would have to be brought there. And then somebody would have to want to use it that's coming to the event. And then you have one person that's going to use it. And you know, if they use it for a while and then bring it back, and then you're sitting there, somebody's got to be there with it the whole day. And how many people are you going to get to use it? So it starts running into a whole bunch of a few more issues. So, but I will definitely find out more as I talk to the Rotary Club and keep in touch with them. See what they say.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is what it is. Okay, next item, G, considerations for actions to be taken by the committee. A, camping in county parks.
I take it you would like to discourage.
Well, in my opinion, except for at the rec park, but in all the other outlying parks, yes, in my personal opinion, but we'll throw it out. I think that's kind of been a discussion because of the logistics of everything that would encompass if you did allow camping. So,
I have researched the historic ordinances and resolutions. I really haven't been able to find anything that, you know, was enacted by the county board of supervisors to regulate camping in parks. And so I talked to Scott about this either last week or the week before. What I would propose is that I could draft an ordinance just regulating camping in parks. I have a sort of a macro plan of ordinances that we have a lot of ordinances that aren't codified. And they're out in the session books for every year the county board has, you know, published proceedings of the county board for that year. There's a lot of resolutions and ordinances that are addressed to, you know, what happens in parks. And I've been trying to collect all of these ordinances for parks, for, you know, facilities and just different things. And it's apparent to me that, you know, if this is an issue that needs to be taken care of quickly, what I would propose is rather than include it in a bigger package of codified ordinances, that it just be a, you know, a shorter uncodified ordinance that addresses regulation of camping in the parks that the county board could consider fairly quickly. And then when the time comes for the, you know, parks and facilities or whatever would be called that chapter to be created, and all the other things brought in, that could be just brought in and renumbered pretty quickly and plugged into the right spot. And we did that a couple of years ago with a health ordinance. So it wasn't codified, it was adopted by the county board. And the intent is that at some point it's going to be renumbered and inserted into a bigger chapter of codified ordinances. So we could do that with this if you'd like me. I can draft a regulation of camping in county parks, make appropriate language addressing camping in the rec park, you know, carving that out. I got started on that a few years ago when somebody was running a tubing business out of one of the parks on the Red Cedar River. But they ended up they stopped doing it after a couple of weeks. So that's what I can do. It. If you'd like me to do that, I can do that and have an ordinance for you to look at. Hopefully.
I guess I have a question, because I know a lot of the questions we have is if you start to allow camping in county parks, you know, you start thinking about, are there legal issues associated with that? Because you got fire pits, and you have fire rings or fire pits that you have to worry about. You potentially have picnic tables, you have public restrooms. I mean, there's a lot of things that have to be considered, I think, if you're going to allow camping in a county park. What we had talked about last month was making a sign where no camping allowed in county parks. And just putting a sign in the parks, with the exception of the one park that we talked about last month, because that is sometimes used by the Boy Scouts and they get it pre-approved from Scott that it's okay that they can do an overnight stop there at that park, throw up some tents. In the morning, they pack everything up and they're on their way.
It'd be pretty easy to just have address that for organizations, youth organizations or something like that could apply for a permit to camp. And, I think it'd be easy to address. Putting a sign up is going to work a lot. It's going to work 90% of the time. But some people don't follow the signs, and then when you have somebody there that's not, so they said, I don't care what the sign says, I'm gonna camp here anyway. Then you're back to square one of what do you do? And this would be set up so that, the facilities manager, director would be, could issue a citation, or maybe the sheriff's deputies could issue a citation. You've been camping here, that violates county ordinance. You need to move along and not get a ticket. Hate to say, hate to go there with it, but I mean, sometimes it's just necessary. And it's really the only teeth you have. Otherwise, like I said, the sign, you tell people, don't go there. Most people will say, oh, okay, all right, I won't. But a few will. Yeah. But I think that'd be easy to do. Exceptions would be, the youth organizations, occasional camping for youth organization activities or something along that line. It's consistent with the county's support of benevolent organizations. It's not the same thing as somebody, putting a camper there and living for a couple of months in a county park.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, assuming we would allow camping in all the parks, it seems to me, a lot of our parks are quite small, some are bigger. You'd almost have to establish campsites. Because otherwise you'd have no control over how many people would come into that park at one time. So then you're establishing campsites like, regular state parks and things. And so then you can't camp if they're full, then, but that would get complicated too. So I don't think it's very viable, except maybe for some organizations that could get a permit and camp overnight or something. But other than that, I think we'd be opening a can of worms.
You could steer towards primitive camping. Then you eliminate the sanitation issues that come with having a septic, a sewer tank on a camper. But then you still have a problem. Where do people go? If there's not a porta potty there or a restroom that's constructed, in a pit.
Is there like daytime hours that a park's open? Or is it considered open 24 hours a day? A park?
That I'm not sure. I can look at that too. That's certainly something to include. I think I looked into that earlier, but it's been a couple of years. But I can check. And I can include that in it too. It's a pretty basic thing. I can make suggestions, and then if you want to look at see what it looks like in an ordinance form, then we can adjust it.
go ahead.
So last meeting, we had talked a little about having them call Scott to schedule time to be able to camp, and then just allow it like 3 people camping. Is that still a form of an option? And I guess as on the other note, are we in a huge hurry with this? I know that we're in a big hurry to push this through. So I guess I got both questions.
I would say anything you think you'd like to include it, I can include it. It wouldn't have to, from my perspective, it wouldn't have to necessarily be a hurried job or a high priority job. It really depends on the likelihood that if someone tries to camp and someone says you can't camp here, you can leave, whether they'll listen or not. I mean, I can work with Scott, because I wasn't at your last meeting, so I don't know all the details of the things that you discussed, but I would certainly want to include whatever it is that you kind of agreed on or came to a consensus on.
Yeah, Nick, just to kind of update you a little bit on that, I know KT was at our last meeting, and she had mentioned that if you have a campground where you allow more than 3 campers, now you have to have a license to be able to operate the campground.
I think that's true. Like the people that
that camp in the rec park are supposed to, I don't know if they do, but they're supposed to go and get permits from the city of Menominee. That regulation may apply only to private campgrounds, but I don't know either. If we don't have, we have Myron Park, which is up in Sand Creek. But that's leased to the town and they operate it and we don't really have anything to do with it. And other than that, we don't have campgrounds, you know, we don't have it. The rec park is always associated with events like multiple day car shows or racing. At the end of the season, the Racing Association has a 2-day race or 2 days of racing or something, and people come into town and they bring their RVs and pull a trailer. But it's not really a campground. And so we just haven't, there hasn't been a lot of work done on sorting out how to regulate camping in the parks because it just hasn't been they're not campgrounds. People are starting to use them that way, you know.
So I guess before we go into this a lot further, I have I won't say the ultimate question, but the question that I have is, do we currently have a problem with people camping in the parks? Are we trying to solve a problem? Are we trying to solve something that's not a problem? Because we're spending time and effort on this and we're going, how big of a problem are we dealing with? And if we're not dealing with a very big problem, I don't think it behooves us to spend a lot more time and effort on trying to draft an ordinance when we don't necessarily have a problem.
So I guess the one problem we did have was the camper up at 22 Mile. So, and maybe we, I don't know, good question. I guess that's, if we want to let sleeping dogs lie and just see what happens. Right.
So we tabled this last month because we wanted to get input from corporate counsel. So we had discussed the motion of putting up a sign that said no camping without permission or without approval from, I don't know how we worded it exactly. And we didn't move forward with that because we wanted the legal advice on that. Would that be something that solves could solve the little bit of a problem we have without having to create a whole new ordinance dealing with it?
I guess if you put up the sign that says no camping without permission, or however, whatever you want to put up, but then you're gonna have to have the follow-up as to who grants it. I mean, you kind of, I don't know, I think that's, then you get into the legal aspects of actually having an ordinance or why you can or why you can't, or I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, what do you think?
I think you could, but it's really, it doesn't have teeth, and it's the ordinance. What I would have in mind, I would think is maybe 2 pages. It's not, maybe if that. It wouldn't be terribly big. It would really depend more on how much detail about specific parks would need to be in there, because some are very, very small and really not good for camping. We have the Champney Park that's actually, part one, and part down the road a little ways is another piece. One piece, the one near the lake shore is, you couldn't really camp there without interfering with people's use of it as a park, and the other one you probably could. It would really depend on things like that, but the regulation itself would really, I don't think it would take all that much. I just haven't written it yet because I'm trying to move everything into the chapter at once instead of doing it in pieces. But if there's a need, we can
think probably maybe the best idea is let sleeping dogs lie. I would not like to see us put up signs and then get permission, because somebody has to give permission. And I don't want to lay that on anybody, really, because how do you check then what's going on? And you're giving them permission. Yeah, carte blanche almost. I don't think that'd be a good idea, either an ordinance or let sleeping dogs lie.
Well, who's in favor of sleeping dogs lie? I guess I am too. I mean, because that is a good point. I mean, maybe we are trying to solve a problem that don't exist, not other than once or twice or whatever.
And and as Scott mentioned at the last meeting, when the scouts want to use the park, they contact him for permission anyway, so. Says I do like, if we do something like that, I like Nick's suggestion, corporate counsel's suggestion, that you, instead of permission, you do permit. If we were to put a sign out there, camping by permit only. And then, of course, you'd have to have information on how they would get a permit.
That could be a very simple process of, just a sheet of paper with, write your name and your address, contact information, and how long you're gonna stay, how many tents you're gonna have. And then permission granted. It would take 45 seconds for someone to fill it out at the facilities office. And then another 15 seconds to be reviewed and signed by somebody.
So, what are we gonna do?
I haven't really heard from Scott. I was just wondering if he felt we had a problem. Because he's the one that sees these parks all the time, and his guys do it. And, I don't know about the camper there, was it pulled in there and stayed all year? I mean, so I'm asking,
So we have had campers over the years at 22 Mile Ford Park. I would say that's the only one that we've had actual campers. We did have a camper that was pulled in there, and it was people that were homeless, and the camper sat there for quite some time. I contacted the sheriff's department, and they had already had contact with these people that they were homeless, and gave them a deadline to get it out of there, which they got it out of there. But then I got phone calls from a couple of county residents that were afraid to go to the park and use the park because it was a dilapidated camper that was full of junk and had cars parked there, and they didn't know what was going on. They were afraid they never know what's going on these days. But I guess my main reason for talking about the camping, bringing it back up is that if there's an ordinance of no camping in parks, then the sheriff's department would have something back and then going there and saying, hey, you can't camp here. Otherwise, like Nick says, it has no teeth. They go there and say you can't camp there, and people say, well, we've done it for years, nobody said a thing. What, is there some ordinance or what is back? So the people that have camped over the years at 22 Mile, I wouldn't say they've been a problem, causing any damage or have reports of any partying or anything like that. I know there's a camper that they have parked it at the very back of the park, right along the river. They park right there and they camp there, and you'll see it on weekends there. And then occasional other ones. But that's the only park that there's been any real problems. Like Thatcher Park, the family that donated the park, they have standing permission to camp their opening fishing. And they do, and they go there and they clean up the park. A number of the other parks have the posts along the edge of the pavement, so you're not gonna get a camper into the park to park at their camp. And those other parks nobody does. They're not doing it. So I don't know if it's a real problem or what. But, like I said, I brought it up to go it out there and see what you guys thought and what we wanted to do.
Okay. Well. Back to square one again. I don't know, I guess, go ahead.
Well, I think maybe Nick should write up an ordinance and see what that's about, and then we can choose the, see if the dogs lie or go with what he says.
Okay. I can do that. Okay. Plan on having it on the agenda for next month then? Would that give you enough time or?
I really don't know, so I'll just say yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, we'll have it on the agenda for next month then. So the action will be to have it on the agenda for next month. Okay. Next topic, 2022 Red Cedar Racing Season. So, you guys were all mailed out a tentative schedule of the racing that's coming up. Brent, do you have anything you want to say before I continue on? Or anybody up there who's with you?
We're both here, I guess. John, you want to speak on our behalf or?
Yeah, I guess I can say, yeah, you guys obviously got our schedule for this coming year. Everything should comply with our contract with the county. And as far as we can tell, we should be good to go, and we intend to hopefully open, weather permitting, on April 8th. And if you guys have any questions about the schedule, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, Jeff.
Well, to get the discussion going, I'll make a motion. I make a motion that we let Red Cedar Racing race.
Okay, well, in lieu of the fact that the restrictions were put on last year for the 2021 racing season. When the season was over, the restrictions were technically over. So there are no restrictions unless somebody wants to put some on. So that there doesn't really need to be a motion.
Okay.
Am I correct with that?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, all of the restrictions, the limitations relating to the pandemic they've all expired.
Okay.
So now it's just the Racing Association has a lease agreement with the county for the facility. The only thing is, if there are any races in there that aren't their regularly scheduled races, it's been a couple of years. If there are special races, those still require the Racing Association to come to the facilities committee to get approval for them. Like there's I can't remember what it is, 2 or 3 extra races a year.
Yeah, that would be the Outlaws, right?
Yep.
Sunday for the Outlaws.
Yeah, we've got the Sunday show in July for the World of Outlaws, and the Punky Manor obviously in September that we run every year.
I think that's already covered.
The fair too.
Yep, and then we've taken, we do run that Thursday night of the fair. We've been working with Deb, on that, which we have done now here a couple of years in the past. So that would be our extra day that's outside of our regularly scheduled program.
Is it if it's a fair activity, I don't think it would count as one of your extra races, because the fair board would be having you come in
Okay.
and do it.
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure, because that's a Thursday and a Friday night, and Thursday wouldn't technically be within our thing. But yeah, if we're under the fair, it's a thing we got with Deb. So yeah, everything's good.
Okay. So I guess, yeah, we're good to go. And I guess I just want to say I appreciate the last 2 years. It's been pretty couple tough years. And I just want to say thank you for the effort that you guys put forward with us and working with us. And I think we made the best of a bad situation, and good luck in the future.
Yeah, hang on one sec. We appreciate the same thing, guys, and Coach Thomas wants to speak quick too.
Yeah, not to butt in here, but appreciate that and appreciate all your cooperation and willingness to work with us and willingness to keep going back to the drawing board and try to make it work and ultimately end up making it work for us last year. And we really appreciate you guys as well and look forward to the future.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, guys.
Okay, so then do we actually need to make a motion to accept the extra 2 days that they put in there then? Since they presented it to us?
If those are the two they picked, I guess, if you want to, if they can identify which ones they are
It was the Outlaws,
on July 17th.
yeah. And then they said the fair, but then you're saying that.
I think because it's the contract as a fair board to have the event. And it's for the fair. It's not, I mean, it is a race, but it'll be different from the regular competitions.
That'd be the Thursday night, the practice on.
No, you mean a punky?
I think the Punky's already covered.
Okay. Yeah, we pretty much just have that, the Outlaws deal then is what it would be, the that Sunday night show.
So if you want to make a motion to approve that one, I drafted a form for Scott to use to verify that you still have that.
Somewhere maybe.
If the committee would approve that, we could get them a notification that the facilities committee is considered and granted a request to have that additional race. It would be identified in the form and we could send it to them. Sort of like a permit for camping in the park, but it would require a motion.
Before we make this motion, I guess I do have a question, because now this is the second year for the Outlaws.
This will be actually be the third year for the Outlaws.
Okay, now is that something that's gonna become part of your normal schedule now?
We would hope so. It's definitely something with them being a national touring series. It's always something that we hope to keep rolling, but you know, they always have conflicts and changes in schedule, but that's our intent, is to hope it to be our regular deal.
So my question then is, do we have a different action that we need to take so that this can be incorporated into their normal schedule?
Yeah, you'd have to amend the lease. Well, I would suggest waiting until the lease is up and then changing that, just do it as you're doing it now.
The negotiation part of it, yeah.
Okay, well then I move that we approve the date that they have for the World of Outlaws,
July 17th.
July 17th.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the July 17th World of Outlaws race. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, the next topic was the sustainability report, which there'll be no action on. So that moves us down to item H, consideration of reports, resolutions, ordinances to be recommended to the Dunn County Board by facilities. We have none. So that just brings us then down to our next meeting date is April 27th. And at this time, I'd like to thank Tim for being a member of this here board. We appreciated your input, and you know, don't be a stranger. Just because you're not an elected official, you still can come back and haunt us or something, you know. So give us advice. You know, you've always had good insight, and I've appreciated working with you, and good luck in the future.
Thank you. Scott, this is if you need any help with that spreadsheet.
So before we close, I just
is there gonna be an action item next month or for what she's requesting from the mayor on the fans and those issues? Does that need to be an action item in the future or is?
Well, that will be, well, I guess I'll ask Dave. I was gonna bring it up on Saturday, but should there be, because if there's a, I mean, she's asked for ARPA funds.
Well, I think it's, I think if the committee feels it's worth asking for, then it should be asked for whether it's for ARPA funds or not. It's, you know, it would be up to the county board how to fund it.
Okay,
You know, one would be ARPA funding, but it could be,
any funding
Yeah.
from the county.
Well, the Planning Resource and Development Committee and the Highway Committee have both
they have,
taken action with a suggestion for
Right.
use of ARPA funds for budget planning.
so it could, but, you know, I'm just saying if it's worthy, then maybe you should,
Put it on it.
I don't know what's gonna happen at, you know, our Saturday meeting. But we will have an action item there, so we can use ARPA funds or designate our ARPA funds for use, you know, on capital improvements as we're going through it.
Sure.
And I don't know that. I went through that, you know, the packet, and I don't remember seeing the fans in there. Maybe they are,
No, they're not.
okay. But you could bring that up, or the committee could bring it back. you know.
Well, I'll bring it up Saturday, but we will have it as a point of discussion at the next meeting. It would actually be an action item as far as funding for the fair.
I'm going to publish an amended agenda that includes specifically discussion of designating ARPA funds as part of the planning process. That happens on Saturday. So it'll be fair game at that time.
Ron, you can remember this if you only went back.
Yeah, you might be going with that.
That's right.
Well, I'm gonna say good luck to all of you.
Oh, yeah. Tanya's question.
Do we know the restrictions on ARPA funds? At one time, they said there was going to be some restrictions, what you couldn't spend it on.
There's no restrictions right now on the amount we got, because the default is 10 million.
Yeah.
You can spend up to $10 million on lost revenue, and we got 8.8. So we can spend all our money on lost revenue. At this point, they could change it. But at this point, we can spend all 8.8 million on lost revenue. So that's pretty much anything but putting it in our fund balance or our bank account, something like that. We have to spend it.
This would be fair game for solar panels then too, wouldn't it?
It would.
Yes,
I mean, you got 8 million, gee.
that, there are like 4 or 5 different categories. And lost revenue is the one that everyone's been concerned about. But the Department of Treasury established a default loss of revenue threshold at 10 million as a part of it. And so counties of this size are, as a practical matter, if you get less than 10 million in ARP funds awarded to you, you can do pretty much anything you want with it except put it in the bank. You got to do something. But infrastructure is one of the categories too. Highways, telecommunications, I would guess solar panels.
We still have the judicial center be a fair game for a geothermal system. Boy, that would save a lot of money.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, good luck to all of us running. So Ron isn't the only one back. You don't know. So, anyway, next meeting date will be April 27th. And if there's no further discussion, we are adjourned.